What's a concussion? A concussion is a type of mild traumatic brain injury caused by a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, or by a hit to the body that causes the head to move rapidly back and forth. This sudden movement can make the brain bounce or twist in the skull, leading to chemical changes and sometimes damaging brain cells. What does a concussion look like? A concussion is a mild brain injury caused by a bump or jolt to the head that affects how the brain works. It might not show any visible signs, but common symptoms include headache, dizziness, confusion, memory problems, and sensitivity to light or noise. A person may look dazed, move clumsily, have trouble concentrating, or act differently. Some may briefly lose consciousness, but not always. Symptoms can show up right away or hours later. Even if it seems minor, a concussion should be taken seriously and checked by a healthcare provider. How concussion is abused. In all cases, whether underplayed or exaggerated, abusing the seriousness of a concussion can lead to harmful outcomes, both medically and ethically. Long-term effects from a concussion. Concussions can cause long-term problems, especially if someone gets them more than once. These problems include memory loss, headaches, mood swings, sleep issues, and trouble thinking clearly. In serious cases, repeated concussions can lead to brain disease like CTE, which affects how a person thinks, feels, and acts.
Concussion is a brain injury. People think of it as getting your bell rung or getting a ding, but the truth of the matter is that it's a brain injury. The biggest cause of concussion is getting hit to the head, but it can happen in all sorts of different ways. It can happen certainly on a sports field, a helmet-to-helmet collision, for example, but it can also happen in ways that you might not expect. For example, in a car accident, even if your head doesn't hit the dashboard or hit the windshield, just the violent moving back and forth of the brain within the skull during a car accident, for example, can cause a concussion. People think, for example, if this is the brain, around it is a skull, and then you have a helmet, that there's a blow, and everything you just get a blow to the brain. That's not exactly what's happening. Typically, if all of a sudden this brain is moving this direction, another helmet, for example, is moving this direction, and then they both suddenly stop, what happens is this brain keeps moving within the skull, bounces back and forth, almost like a beach ball in a swimming pool. And at the same time that's happening, the brain is actually elongating. It's like almost a fluid medium. It feels like almost like jello, and it's going back and forth and stretching out at the same time. And that's really what ends up causing that concussion. That back and forth, that stretching out. One thing to keep in mind about concussions, they don't mean that you necessarily lost consciousness. People can have concussions and have been awake. A really important point. Typically, someone is just going to feel a little bit out of sorts. They may have a hard time figuring out exactly where they are, what their surroundings are. They may be seeing stars, especially in the outside of their vision, the periphery of their vision. Things may sound hollow because their hearing is not quite intact right after a concussion. But typically, it's people around somebody who's had a concussion that are going to notice the most. All people recover differently from concussions. Some people could take weeks to recover. Some people may take just a few days. But the key is that they have to be absolutely symptom-free. They can't have any symptoms at all, because what that means is that the brain is not completely healed. And if the brain is not completely healed, and the person gets a second concussion, then all of a sudden you've taken a problem that someone could recover from and turned it into a potentially fatal problem. The brain needs to rest, and that means lots of things. No texting, for example, no screen time. Reading puts a strain on the brain. So tell people to really completely do nothing, at least for several days, until all of their symptoms has gone away, and then you slowly resume activity. We've seen now through this new study the brains of these players after they died, and found that people who died prematurely in their 30s or their 40s, even at that young age, are already starting to have signs that are similar to Alzheimer's disease in their brains, and it's because of repeated blows to the head. So it's really changing everything about football. They don't practice as much anymore actually hitting head to head. They do a lot of what's called the 2-point stance, holding your body up, as opposed to the 3-point stance with the helmet down. They try and prevent as much as possible those helmet-to-helmet hits, which make for great highlight films, but unfortunately we now know more than ever what it's been doing to people's brains.